That's a lot. Yes, I served 32 years. I've been in 12 deployments, several countries. I've done things that I can't even talk about to this day. But knowing that when you come back from a deployment, you are very vulnerable. But you don't even know that you're vulnerable until you walk into a grocery store and you get overwhelmed by the lights or the music or the sounds or the kids screaming or whatever. So what it reminded me of when I was going through ministerial school, I don't know if you know Dr. Reverend Christian Sorensen, he kept telling me, you need to have a focused ministry, you need to be working with vets. I'm like, yeah, but I got to do this first. He's like, no. So when I finally took my focus ministry and said, I'm going to do this in Sierra Vista, it's a big, huge military community, and I know everybody on post. So that's what I do. Vulnerability is scary at times. It can be scary for us. It can be scary for our families. It can be scary for every situation. And so when we look into vulnerability, how we see ourselves, how we see others, and then the space in between. So seeing ourselves in that vulnerable place, you try to figure out, am I being my authentic self? Am I being a fake person? Am I pretending, fake it till I make it because I just can't make it through this point? What am I doing? How can I be my most authentic self? And so this teaching really helps us dig down and dig in and find that space of who am I and how can I be my authentic self? I used to play Michael Gott's music in my office, and my guys were like, can you pipe that through the rest of the office? Because we need to hear that. And so I met Michael and I told him about that, and I was known as Donna the Army Lady. Great name. But my guys didn't look at the music as, oh, she's being foo-foo and blah, blah, blah. They looked at the music as knowing they can see themselves differently and feel differently. And that's what vulnerability is all about. How do we see ourselves? How do we want to be? How do I want to show up today? How do I want to show up at any place that I go? I want to be my most authentic self. And for me, that was very difficult. From the first class I took, I'm like, whew, are you kidding me? This is tough. It is tough because we don't know how other people are going to take us, and we don't know how other people are going to look at us. And when we make a mistake, that's when we're the most vulnerable. But when we take responsibility for that mistake and say, you know, I'm really sorry. I said what I said. I wasn't listening. I wasn't communicating right. I wasn't being my best. I wasn't. But taking responsibility is a key. You know, a lot of people don't. Just turn on the news. You see it every day. So when we take that responsibility, not only do we feel better about ourselves, we become less vulnerable because now we see ourselves as authentic, integrous, knowing that we can speak the truth, know the truth, and be the truth. And that's what's so important is just showing up, being us, warts and all. You know, remember when you were in high school and you had to wear the right jeans and the right shirts and the right all that stuff? We don't have to do that anymore. You can show up just as you are, and everybody's going to love you just as you are. And if they don't, that's okay. It's their stuff, not yours. And that's where we become the most vulnerable is when, oh, she's looking at me. I don't really care anymore. I'm too old for that stuff. When I turned 65, I went, I'm done. You know? Because in the military, we're all wearing the same uniform. We all look the same haircuts, same everything. They don't know you. That's why we have name tags. I don't know you from another guy, but that was pretty vulnerable stepping out of that place of having a uniform and that's my identity. I didn't know how to do that. I had to learn, and Science of Mind taught me how to step out of that, how to just be myself. I met a bunch of beautiful women on this cruise, and they were like, you are so much fun. I had them dancing every night. We were dancing. But I was trying to not be vulnerable, just trying to be personable. And that's where we get to be our best. When we just like throw the doors open and here we go. And that's what Science of Mind teaches us. Ernest Holmes says to be your most authentic self. And when we get to do that, people go, I love you just like you are. I love your clothes. I love whatever. It doesn't matter. So that's when we take that vulnerability and make it not against us, but for us. We take it and put it for us. It's not against us anymore because nobody's against us. Everything is for us. That's what we're taught. So when we're in the airport, boy, that's a great place, isn't it? You get to see everything in the airport. And I look at the airport as an opportunity to pray for people. They're running to their gate. Are they late because they're late? Or they're late because there's a family situation? It's just like when you get cut off in traffic. I don't get mad anymore. I'm like, ooh, there must be something wrong. There must be an emergency. Or they're trying to get to the donut shop. I'm not sure. But instead of making it an angry place, I make it a positive place. And that's what I teach my vets, is to take something and turn it around to make it more positive. Because we can drag that negative stuff all day long, can we not? Yeah. Well, I put mine on a boat to China, so it's somewhere out in the Pacific. I am not hanging on to that. And so I see each of us as a story, a place to be. I don't know where you've been. I've met so many interesting people throughout my life. And it's just amazing how sometimes our stories are the same. We come from abusive homes. We come from bad situations. We come from whatever. And we all get to be together and support one another and take away that vulnerability and get them to see, get other people to see their beautiful self. That's really what's cool. Seeing other people as you're just beautiful just as you are. You don't have to do anything crazy. You don't have to be validated by me. You don't have to be anything by me, because you get to be validated by yourself. And man, does that make you vulnerable. Oh, wow. Oh, I get to stand on my own 2 feet? Ooh, I don't know. And that's what I see in my vets is when they tell their story, I just tell them, tell me your story, and then we'll start from there. And it's interesting when you ask someone, just tell me your story. It's amazing. Wow. I would have never thought that you had been in Costa Rica or in the jungle or wherever. Your story's amazing. They're like, well, not really. Yeah, it is. You need to write that down. You need to publish that story. And when we get to see that for them, then they get to feel better about themselves. And that's what I really love about this teaching, because we get to talk to people and get them to see the very best of themselves. Because we've all been through some stuff. We all have. Childhood stuff, adult stuff, still stuff. People, they don't like what's on the TV. It's going to change. It always does. But when we take ourselves out of that vulnerable place and just step into our truth and authentic self, then other people get to see that example. Because I hear all the time, I want what you have. I smile all the time. Even in my bad days, I still smile. Because I know that the truth is, I am very happy. I'm the happiest I've ever been in my life. And that is an example that we have to set. So other people can see the possibilities. When you go into the grocery store and you say, how you doing today? The grocery clerk will just go, wow, you're the first person to ask me. Thank you for asking me. You just changed their life. You changed their life for the rest of the day. They're going to go home and they'll go, this really amazing person came in. She was wearing this crazy shirt, but she was so sweet. And she asked me what my day was at. So I had the best day because she asked me. That's how we see others. Ask them how their life is. Ask them what's going on. Ask them. And that gives us an opportunity to pray for them. I look at the news as an opportunity to pray for them. And that's when you switch it around, isn't that easier to take? Absolutely. Instead of all this mess and all this stuff and good grief, guys, really? We can turn this around. We really can. With prayer, we can turn anything around. And Ernest Holmes has taught us that. So take that vulnerability, make it authentic, be yourself, and as Brene Brown says, it's none of my business what you think of me. And when we get that, it's like, yes. The 4 agreements. What other people say about you, it's not you, it's them. So you're like, woo, girl, you got some stuff going on here. Jeez, what are you doing? Wow. No, that's not me, but I get to pray for you. Whoo, walk away and go, man, I thought my life was tough. No. And that's the place where our vulnerability gets to be our strength rather than a weakness. Is saying, I'm stepping into this authenticity, this truth of who I am. I don't have to be validated. I'm not in high school anymore. Not in grade school. Not anywhere. I'm just me. And that's the most perfect way to be. That's what Ernest teaches us. Just be yourself. Because people are going to love you for who you are. And if they don't, that's their problem, not yours. That's their problem. That's a hard thing to really swallow is, oh, it's not about me. It's about them. Okay, I can do this now. I can do that now. So see others as you would see yourself. Perfect, whole, and complete. They're vulnerable, we're vulnerable, everything's going on, but as long as you're being authentic, it don't matter. That's the perfect place to be. Be in that place of calm in the chaos. I'm the calm in the chaos. That's what I keep telling my vets. I'm your calm in your chaos. Funny story. I teach tapping so that they can release all the trauma. This older guy, he'd been in Vietnam. He was on special forces, so he'd been in some crazy places that you all don't know about. And he was telling me this story about an operation that happened. Now, this happened back in 73. This is now 2019. That particular incident, he carried with him. He carried with him every day. Nightmares, daymares, couldn't sleep. He'd get up in the middle of the night, drive his wife absolutely crazy, because he'd be up from midnight to 6 and then go back to bed. So we just started talking. Just tell me your story. And he'd get really upset, and he goes, you know, I feel like a failure. I'm like, you're not a failure. You were doing your job. And then we do some tapping. After a while, he quit shaking. After a while, he slept through the night. After a while, he could see himself perfect, whole, and complete. He let go of the trauma, let go of the story that he'd been telling himself, because we can tell ourselves some stories. He let go of that story. And he would come into the Warrior Healing Center where I work, and he'd be happy and laughing and just having a great time. And 3 months later, he made his transition. He was at peace. So when you're at peace, life is so much better. You just have to let it go. And he let it go. His wife got mad at me, but you know. She's like, this is not what we wanted to do. And I'm like, yes, but he's at peace. And now you're at peace because he's at peace. She said, I never thought of that. And that's the way we get to see one another. When we're all at peace, when I'm at peace, you're at peace. Because when you're around me, you're going to get a hug and how you doing and all that good stuff. I don't care about your past. I don't care about what happened yesterday. I'm just looking at you right now. And that's that space in between is when we see people on the street and we see each other with one another and we say, you know, that's a fabulous person. She has a great haircut. I couldn't dye my hair purple. That would just, no, that's the military in me, but I couldn't do it. But I love to see these kids having all these different color hair. I now have my first tattoos. That took me a very long time, but that's the way we get to be, see? So we just get to step out of that box that everybody's put us in, and we find our own place to be. Kick the box to China. Don't hang on to it. Kick all those stories. Get rid of them. They're not worth hanging on to. We have a lot of stuff to heal, and once we go through the process, life is so much better. And you become less vulnerable and a lot stronger, and you get to stand up and say, this is who I am, warts and all, but I love each and every person that I come in contact with. I love being around people. I'm the most talkative person. I think I talked to everybody on the ship when I was on the cruise. There was a couple that were having a little bit of a fight, and I was like, do I get up and go talk to them? I'm a little minister, or do I just let them? No, I'll just pray for them right here. And they worked it out. Then I saw one of them later, and I'm like, how's your day? How are you doing? Is everything okay? And she's like, she didn't even know I saw the fight. She's like, oh, I'm doing so much better. Good. I'm glad to hear that. And so when we get to know for one another the best in their lives, that's when we get to be our best. Because we're getting out of our box and getting them out of their box and just being. That's what Amit Goswami was, my physics of the soul professor. And he said, quit doing and start being. And it starts with yourself. Just what is it you want to do? What is calling you? What is the fire within you? And that's what we have to ask ourselves. What is the fire within me, and why am I not doing it right now? Why? You're being called. You don't want that 2x4 because Spirit will give you that 2x4. Oh, yes. Ask me. I got it a couple times. So stepping out of your vulnerability, stepping into your authenticity, people are going to see you just as you are and love you just as you are. And when you know that for yourself, life is so much better. And when you know that you're the calm in the chaos, everyone around you is going to be calm. When people walk into my office, they're just, and then they calm down. And it's amazing to watch. So I know if I can do it, all of you can do that. I can't fall in love with someone who's fake or phony. I can't fall in love with someone who can't be themselves, because that's not who I'm falling in love with, right? So when you fall in love with someone, you're falling in love with that deepest vulnerability, who they really are, because the stuff comes out. It comes out. And then you go, okay, let's have a conversation. What's going on here? This is not who you were when I was dating you. So who are you now? True. We change. We all change. But if we get to step in our vulnerability and stay, I'm going to be authentic, then you don't have to change. You don't have to be that Gumby and untwist yourself and do all of that stuff. That's the coolest part about stepping into our authenticity. And that's what Ernest teaches us. Just be yourself. People are going to love you for who you are. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be yourself. You don't have to have the right car, the right house, the right clothes, the right anything. Just being you is the right thing. Just be yourself. Because vulnerability is not one-dimensional concept. It requires both internal awareness. We have to start inside. Everything starts inside. Being peaceful, loving ourselves, caring about ourselves, self-care, awareness, just being who we want to be in this world starts inside. Because you can't do it out here if it's not in here. You can't. It's impossible. Because it's just faking it when you're doing it out here. So when we get inside and our classes teach us, dig deep, go through there, clean it up, let it go. It's not worth hanging on to. Because I want to be just me. I don't want to be anybody else. I can't do that. So this is a new concept of just being instead of doing. Breathe into it. Love yourself. Love whatever goes on in your life. And know that everything's a life lesson and a process. That was the biggest learning thing in Science of Mind for me, was everything's a process. And you're going through it for a reason. And when you get on the other side, you figure it out. And you're like, oh man, I didn't know I needed to go through that speed bump. Hello? I didn't know I needed to do that thing. Hello? I didn't know I needed to meet this person and learn something else about myself. That's the best part of this, being vulnerable and our life lessons. So we get to look at ourselves, expand ourselves, and know the truth is, I'm perfect just as I am. I have the perfect haircut, perfect clothes, perfect everything. And someone's just going to love me for me. And I'm going to tell you today, I love each and every one of you, and I appreciate you all. And thank you for having me as your guest speaker. So let's take all of those thoughts into prayer. As we join in that consciousness of knowing that God is in everything, Spirit is always walking with us, not behind us, not in front of us, but with us. And in each moment of every day that we are feeling vulnerable, it's just a moment to know that we are learning a life lesson. We are being our most authentic selves. And that is exactly what we are called to do. And I know for each one today, as they walk out of this building, they get to walk out knowing that they're perfect just as they are. Each one of us are perfect. Each one of us are with the one, in the one mind, the one spirit, the one source. And in that one is a manifest of beauty and perfection and wholeness. I simply say thank you, Spirit, for this day. Thank you for each one here. Thank you for blessing each one of us with this vulnerability and authenticity. And I know as we go on our way, we go on our way safely. I simply say thank you, God. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you, universe. And I release these words into the law, knowing it's perfect, it's done, it's complete, and so it is.